Today on Investigate TV Plus, driving behind a dump truck can sometimes feel like you're playing road hazard roulette. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. We take an in-depth look at your rights on the road and show you a solution that could help prove who's to blame. Plus,
how difficult is a no-body homicide case to get a conviction?
They are typically very difficult.
a prosecutor takes us inside a rare and complex trial.
What we had to prove was that, first of all, she was no longer alive, and second of all, who did it.
We examine the investigation, the evidence, and how he convinced a jury to convict beyond a reasonable doubt. And a game inspiring players to overcome physical and mental challenges.
Don't stop, follow through.
We show you why pickleball is for all.
In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus. It's probably one of the most frustrating things that can happen to you on the road. A rock flies off a dump truck, either cracking or shattering your windshield.
According to the Insurance Journal, broken windshields are the #1 claim in the country. The cost to replace a windshield can vary anywhere from $200 to $1,500, depending on the make, model, and year of your vehicle.
But once the damage is done, can you hold dump truck companies responsible for the cost? Investigative reporter Brendan Keefe has the answer.
The hits just keep on coming. More than 7 million insurance claims for auto glass in the U.S. every year.
2 witnesses told police they saw the stone fly out of the passing truck.
10,000 injuries from road debris.
The left side of her face was crushed.
And more than 100 deaths.
A rock the size of a bowling ball hit a car's windshield, killing a grandmother.
Dump trucks have signs warning of the danger. Stay back 100 feet, 200 feet, even a mile to avoid rock damage. The stickers also deny liability.
The rock hit right there, and the windshield is ruined.
Andrew Lampros has replaced 3 windshields in 3 years.
All dump trucks, 1 in Tennessee, 2 in Georgia.
How do you hold these guys accountable?
Well, I don't know.
What do you do for a living?
I'm a lawyer.
Not just any lawyer, Lampros is one of the top litigators in Georgia. His firm has extracted multi-million-dollar settlements in injury cases, but he had trouble even finding out who to hold accountable for his windshields.
Yeah, it's very interesting that they have no problem keeping those stickers on the back, but they can't seem to keep any identifying information on the trucks.
Notice anything missing on the back of these dump trucks? Look again. Where's the license plate? Truck after truck with no identifying information on the business end of the vehicle. These trucks are not breaking the law. They're following it to the letter.
They are exempted from having their license plate on the back of the vehicle.
Some states require plates on the front and back, but most states that require only rear license plates for the rest of us allow dump trucks to put them on the front instead. Ironically, it's because they haul rocks and debris that could damage the license plate.
And of course, if something comes off the back of the vehicle and hits your car, having the license plate identifier on the front of the dump truck doesn't do you a lot of good.
Stop. Let's rewind that back and take a look at where the rock came from. If it came from the road and the rock was simply kicked up by the truck's tire, it's not their fault. You'd be responsible for the cost of replacing it. But not all rocks are the same. If the rock fell off the truck, even if it bounces off the road and then smashes your windshield, the driver or the company could still be held liable, no matter what that sticker on the back of the truck claims.
Yeah, the rock came through, hit dead center of the windshield. Sounded like a gunshot.
Jamie Hurley was lucky, or so he thought.
Can I get your ID?
Because the driver of the dump truck stopped and called police.
We get like a couple of these every year.
Even with evidence of asphalt leaking out of the truck, Hurley was forced to pay for the windshield himself.
$2,700. Obviously, a lot of the windshields now have a lot more bells and whistles.
This isn't really an accident, so we don't really decide whose fault it is. We're just going to document that he said a rock came out of your truck, you said you're hauling asphalt.
I learned a lesson.
39 states, including Georgia, where Hurley lives, require a tarp or cover on dump trucks. but some barely cover the load.
What you do see on the road is these lightly loose loincloths.
Attorney Andrew Lampros found a solution, and it's not in any law book.
After the third one, I decided it was time to spend the $125 and get a dash cam.
Investigative reporter Brendan Keefe joins us now. Brendan, you mentioned getting a dashboard video camera. Is the camera able to capture where the rock came from?
Well, Lee, you saw at the top of the piece with the rocks peppering the windshield and then one where the rock actually breaks the windshield. You, as the person claiming the damage, have the burden to prove that the damage was actually caused by the dump truck. The best witness is the silent witness, and that's the dash camera. In fact, many dash cameras these days are cheaper than the windshields they rest upon.
What happens if you file a claim with your insurance?
Most insurance companies are not going to raise your rates if you file for a claim for a broken windshield if you have comprehensive insurance, but you have to have that comprehensive insurance to begin with. Some larger companies will replace a windshield even if you don't have comprehensive and only have collision insurance, but it's very likely that they would have a deductible in that case.
All right, thanks, Brendan. So frustrating being
Yeah.
behind a truck like that and getting your windshield dinged.
And it's scary, you know, because it makes a loud noise when it hits your windshield, and you just wonder how bad is this going to be in the moment.
Especially how big that, you know.
Those rocks are.
Yeah. Ugh. All right, you can read and watch more of Brendan's in-depth reporting on our website, InvestigateTV.com. Just type Rocky Road in the search bar.
The ocean holds an explosive past that threatens our future.
We find munitions in feet of water.
We go to Hawaii, where engineers from all over the world go high-tech to detect decaying bombs before they cause an environmental disaster.
But first, a murder case in Arizona goes to trial without a key piece of the puzzle. We take an in-depth look at the evidence and hear from the prosecutor who made it his mission to bring justice to the victim whose body has never been found. Corpus delicti is a Latin phrase that translates to body of the crime. The phrase refers to the principle that requires proof a crime took place before someone can be charged. In the case of murder, the victim is part of the corpus delicti, but it's a common misconception a body is needed to charge someone.
Although rare, it is possible to win a conviction without a body. Since 2012, there have been more than 660 no-body murder prosecutions in the United States, with an 86% conviction rate. One such case is in Arizona, where a man is serving decades in prison for the murder of his girlfriend, whose remains have never been located.
Reporter Brianna Whitney speaks to the prosecutor about his strategy to win a conviction without a key piece of evidence. A warning, the details of this story are graphic.
It's not something the county attorney bureau chief sees even go to trial often, let alone be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt someone died.
What we had to prove was that, first of all, she was no longer alive, and second of all, who did it.
18-year-old Luzea Mathis disappeared without a trace in 2019. Clark says it became obvious she was controlled and manipulated by the last person to see her, her boyfriend, Jamal Jones.
He had a knack of drawing her back in.
Then she vanished. But did that mean he killed her?
But nobody has to believe me, but you know, I know the truth and I didn't do it.
It all began 5 years ago. Jamal Jones is charged with physically abusing Luzea. She escaped, but showed police a text from Jamal.
His words were, "Once I beat this court case, I'm going to kill you," essentially.
3 months later,
we know that Luzea disappeared on August 21st, 2019.
She was reported missing by her family, her mother distraught.
No, this isn't true. This isn't true. This isn't true.
What investigators found next changed everything. Evidence in her apartment and car all pointed to one person responsible for her disappearance and death. Jamal Jones was arrested for second-degree murder. That evidence coming out during the trial for the first time.
What ended up being the most shocking part of this trial?
For example, her car. What was found in the trunk of her car was her decomposing flesh, essentially. They found pieces of her scalp in the apartment, an indication that there was a good amount of blood that was cleaned up in the apartment.
That physical evidence was damning enough, but Clark says they also had digital evidence on their side. Just before she disappeared, Luzea Mathis is seen on this surveillance video at the bank, emptying her account. Clark says when they looked closer, they realized something. The person barely in frame, watching her from the back, was actually Jamal Jones.
And it was just a powerful visual for the jurors to try to drive home the point that this was a power and control relationship, and he had all the power and all the control.
3 weeks later, other surveillance video reveals this. It's the first time we're seeing it.
On September 16th, he went to Walmart and was on video buying a shovel, chlorine, rags, a scrub brush, and while driving her car. And then after leaving the Walmart, he turned his phone off for 4+ hours. It is my belief that Luzea was in the trunk of the car when he went to Walmart, and he left from there to wherever he buried her.
Clark says that's more evidence of murder than other cases where they have a victim's remains. The jury agreed, convicting him even with Luzea still missing.
The victim's family really, and to this day, really just wants to know where Luzea is.
Clark and his team tried to cut a deal with Jamal, offering to drop a charge that would lessen his sentence by 12 years if he told them where Luzea's remains are. He wouldn't budge.
I would like to apologize to the victim's family, but I'm not saying that I did anything wrong to her. I'm not admitting to murdering her or anything.
Jamal was sentenced to 41 years in prison, but it may not be the end of this case.
We all believe that he had help in abandoning her body. There wasn't enough evidence to charge anybody else in this case, but it is possible somebody who helped him could come forward in the future to give us that location.
This is the first time Joshua Clark has been able to talk about the case and the emotions he felt during and after it.
She was only 18 years old. It's that loss of potential that's really crushing, and that's what sticks with you. That's what doesn't go away.
His hope is Luzea's body is found, but until then, a reminder sits on his desk, a picture he asked Luzea's grandmother if he could keep after the trial. This is how he wants to remember her.
I like to keep things that remind me of that case and the reason why we did the work for Luzea. Thank you, Jacqueline, for letting me have this.
Investigators believe the body of Luzea Mathis could be on the Gila River Indian Reservation in Arizona. Court documents show it's suspected the defendant buried Luzea's body somewhere on the reservation. Phoenix police tried to dig on the reservation, but were told by the feds they were not able to develop enough specific evidence to obtain a warrant. In cases involving tribal land, local law enforcement needs permission and a warrant to search because the reservation is a sovereign nation, which means they have the authority to govern themselves. In the meantime, Luzea's family is doing everything they can to find her remains. In Phoenix, I'm Brianna Whitney.
They're finding inspiration on the court.
That's the biggest joy for me, is to be able to see them having fun and smile and forget for at least 15 to 20 minutes or an hour about their disability.
We show you the game proving anyone can pick up a paddle and play.
But first, unused bombs buried in the ocean for decades are slowly decaying and possibly releasing toxins into the sea. We show you how modern engineering unearths these hidden hazards from the past.
A volatile danger lurks at the bottom of the ocean off the coast of the United States.
According to the Department of Defense, the U.S. military dumped a countless number of unused conventional and chemical weapons in the water before the Pentagon banned the practice in 1970.
In Hawaii, one researcher estimates 100,000 military bombs were sunk off the coast in just the 1940s alone.
They didn't have the chemical processes that we have now to chemically neutralize toxins.
University of Hawaii researcher Margot Edwards explains back then, if they wanted to get rid of excess obsolete or damaged munitions, options were limited.
They could burn them, not a very good idea. They could bury them, which meant that maybe their constituents would leak into the water table that we all drink from, or they could dispose of them out at sea.
And she says the military did very little to document the dump sites. Edwards says she spoke to one World War II veteran about the process.
When they turned around and held their hand up like this, and the Royal Hawaiian Hotel was that big above the horizon, then they knew it was time to start dumping the munitions.
Because they were never documented, finding dump munitions has been a challenge until now.
Reporter Allison Blair shows us how remote-controlled technology could help researchers locate the explosives before they cause any more harm.
For nearly a century, the ocean has hidden a part of Hawaii's history most people know nothing about. At the end of World War II, the U.S. military sunk a portion of its wartime arsenal. Most of the dump sites were never documented.
Your options were to burn the munitions, to bury the munitions, or to dispose of them at sea. And disposing of them at sea was seen as the least harmful option.
Today,
we find munitions in feet of water. That's in Hilo, that's here, that's potentially even over in Molokai.
This underwater video, taken in 2021, shows 3 unexploded ordnance on the ocean floor, about 300 yards off Lanai's south shore. The explosives were reported by 2 recreational divers.
Lots of bombs out there.
Now, the University of Hawaii is at the forefront of a new effort to find these decaying munitions in places people are most likely to come in contact with them. The Department of Defense recently approved a 2-year project allowing the school to develop a maritime test range complex, a place for engineers from all over the world to test their new technology to see if it works. And this remote-controlled robot will play a big part in making that happen.
Out here on the water, we have an uncrewed surface vessel, which is a platform onto which we can set up sensors that can monitor things in the water.
Some of the gadgets tested will be mounted onto the robot before they're sent out to sea.
And the way we're going to do that is by setting up surrogates or fake munitions that are safe to see if their techs can do the detection that we're expecting.
But before the launch of the Maritime Test Range Complex later this summer, UH is doing some test runs at Sand Island.
Today we're doing something slightly different. We're doing visual detection.
This is some of the imagery that was captured by that underwater camera. After nearly a century on the seafloor, it's unclear what impacts lost munitions could have on the environment. It's why researchers say efforts like this are crucial.
They were made of steel, steel rusts. We don't know, for example, if they've been leaking what was inside of them for a long period of time, or something catastrophic is going to happen tomorrow, and what was previously an intact bomb is suddenly going to go poof and release a bunch of toxic material into the environment.
Hawaii isn't the only place where the issue of lost munitions are a problem. University of Hawaii researchers say there are similar dump sites off countries all over the world. And here in Hawaii, unexploded bombs aren't just a concern off the coast. They've been discovered in several neighborhoods, hidden on pasture land, and even in the garden of a middle school. In Honolulu, I'm Allison Blair.
Up next, serving up success. How pickleball inspires the competitive spirit in players with disabilities.
Pickleball is an emerging sport across the U.S., and one reason is because many players consider it inclusive.
Nova Sports USA says pickleball's straightforward rules and minimal physical requirements make it accessible for all ages. The game is even inspiring those living with a disability to pick up a paddle.
Reporter Jason Berry shows us why pickleball is for all.
They may not have the speed or agility to make every shot, But that doesn't seem to matter to these pickleball players, who are just happy to be on the court.
Very important. Keeps me busy, keeps me from sitting on the couch watching TV.
Every one of these athletes has some type of disability that they're learning to overcome and have some fun at the same time.
Good serve. You came in a little fast on that. Don't stop, follow through.
Mike Smith is a disabled pickleball coach who lost his leg during a helicopter crash while serving in the U.S. Navy. Now he's devoted his life to helping others with physical and mental challenges.
Pickleball is one of the easier sports for people with disabilities to play because, there is movement, but not a lot of movement.
Once a month, Smith runs an adaptive pickleball clinic. Anyone who's lost a limb, has had a brain injury, is confined to a wheelchair, or has any kind of handicap is invited to pick up a paddle and learn how to play free of charge.
That's the biggest joy for me, is to be able to see them having fun and smile and forget for at least 15 to 20 minutes or an hour about their disability, that they're just like everybody else and enjoying life as best normal as they can.
So 001?
This is 47-year-old Julie Sicily's second time playing pickleball, and she's starting to get the hang of it. She says learning the turns and getting in the right position to hit the ball is not easy.
I think it's practice and dedication. If you want to get better, you have to dedicate the time and dedicate, everything that comes with it.
In a wheelchair, you have 2 bounces.
Coach Smith tells us another great thing about adaptive pickleball is that games aren't limited to players with disabilities. You can play hybrid games with able-bodied players as well.
It's more of inclusive because it's not just disabled people playing with each other. And people that are able-bodied are accepting now. And it's fun for them. They see they're able to play with them, and it's more competitive.
And that's it for us on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm T. Chappelle. Thanks for watching.
On the next Investigate TV Plus, a baby born with a life-threatening heart condition was running out of time.
We didn't even know if he would honestly make it out alive post-birth.
We take an in-depth look at the revolutionary surgery that offered this little boy a second chance and how it could help other sick children.